And now, for a special dialogue about vision, development, and hope between 9/11 and October 7th, Israel Gantz, governor of Benimin and chairman of the Yesha Council, will speak with Larry Silverstein, visionary developer and philanthropist.
Are we ready?
Can we just lower those lights? Because I can't see anything.
They can see us. So, Mr. Silverstein, I'm so thankful that you came here, and I want to share with our audience that a few months ago you became my hero, my legend, and I want to explain why. In October 9th, I arrived the first time to Kfar Aza. I saw the destruction. I smelled the fire, the smoke, and I saw the tragedy that was there. And I was reminded what you told me. You just bought the twins here in New York. You bought the twins, and you thought you can make a vocation. You can retire with your amazing wife that came with you here. And after 3 weeks, everything collapsed. You arrived, you survived by miracle, but you arrived, and you saw before your eyes the buildings that you just purchased collapsed. You lost the life of thousands of your tenants, your employees, and you made a decision to rebuild this building. Can you share with us what guided you? How can you do that? How can we wake up, stand up from the destruction?
Governor Gantz, thank you. Thinking back to 9/11 is not the easiest thing because it's still tied with enormous emotion. We took title to the World Trade Center 6 weeks before 9/11. And on that day, my wife looked at me as I was getting dressed to go down to the Trade Center. I had an appointment at Windows on the World with one of the tenants in the building. And she looked at me and she said, "Where are you going?" And I said, "Sweetheart, I'm going down. I have an appointment with a tenant at the World Trade Center." She said, "You cannot go." And I said, "Why can't I go?" And she said, "Well, I made an appointment for you with the dermatologist." She said, "You have light-colored hair, fair skin. You have to go to the dermatologist all the time." So I said, "Sweetheart, I'll go next month." She said, "No, you didn't go last month. You didn't go the month before. You must go today." So she started getting upset. She started getting angry. Now, at that time, we were married only 45 years. So when I saw my wife getting upset and getting angry, I said, "Please, don't get angry. Don't get upset." The words are, "Yes, dear, I'll do anything you want, but don't get upset." So she saved my life. Because if I had gone, I wouldn't be here today. So then we were married only 45 years. Today, we're at 68 years. Soon it's going to be 69. In any event, 9/11 happened. We lost almost 3,000 people. I lost 4 employees. We would have lost 2 of our 3 children because 2 of them were working for my company. And had the planes not hit at 8:45, but 9 o'clock instead, my children would have been gone. So many thousands of other people would have lost their lives as well. the tragedy of 9/11, the 3,000 lives that were lost, is something we'll never forget. But what I couldn't forget was the fact that the World Trade Center became the locomotive for the enormous amount of business activity that it generated in Lower Manhattan. There were thousands of companies working downtown, millions of people there. Huge, huge dependency upon the Twin Towers and the business activity that it brought. It occurred to me shortly after 9/11 that if we didn't rebuild it, Lower Manhattan would have become a ghost town, because as it was, thousands of tenants moved out of the area because the area was uninhabitable. The stench was terrible from the fire and so forth. Thousands of residents moved uptown, and the feeling that you got was, with the last one out, please turn off the lights. So I remember 2 days after 9/11, I got a call at 7 o'clock in the morning from the governor, Governor Pataki. And he said, what do you think we ought to do? And I said, Governor, I think we ought to rebuild the Trade Center, and I think we ought to do it as quickly as possible, because we need to get those buildings back. We need to get business activity back again. We need to get people living here again. And the only way it's going to happen is if we rebuild. So it didn't take long before I really began to focus on what had to be done. As it turns out, the last building that collapsed on 9/11 was the building at 7 World Trade Center that I had built many years ago. Because it was the last building to come down, no lives were lost in it. There was an opportunity to get everybody out of the building before it collapsed. So I looked at that building, and the determination I made was that would be the first building to go back up. The last one to come down, but the first to go up. And so we hired architects. We went about the program of getting it rebuilt. And if you look at the building today, that building was finished in 06, 9/11, 06, 5 years later. Everyone said when I started rebuilding the building, waste of time. He'll never get it built. He'll never get it financed. No one will ever occupy it again. Naysayer after naysayer after naysayer said, never happen, never, 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 never. So after a while, my wife said to me, sweetheart, why are all these people saying never? And I said, I learned something, and that is a lot of people like to give advice. They don't know what they're giving advice about. If they listen to their own words, they may think differently. They may not say all these negative things. But what I learned I had to do was to block out the negative voices, listen to my own determination. And I said, honey bunch, we're going to rebuild this trade center, and we're going to do a first-class job on it. She said, how long do you think it'll take? I said, we should finish it in 10 years. I said, but I have to ask you a question. I said, I can't do this alone, right? I can only do this if you are 100% with me. I said, I promised you many times that when we finally got the gold ring, if we finally got the trade center, I said we had enough of everything. Everybody's taken care of, the kids are taken care of, so forth. So I said, you wanted to build another boat yacht, we could do that. If you want to sail around the world, we could do that. I said, but now we have this trade center problem. I said, so I can't do this alone. So you have to tell me, what do you want me to do? If you want me to stop building another boat yacht and so forth, we could do that. Or if you want to rebuild the trade center, we could do that. Tell me what you want me to do. She looks at me and she said, you know, you're not going to be happy doing anything else with your life. So let's get on with building the trade center. Just like that. Terrific partner, the best partner I could ever ask for.
Thank you. You know, in the last year, I had to inform more than 55 families. This is the last loved one. You told me that you went by yourself to inform families. You stay connected with them with years, but at the same time, you continue to build, to push forward. How could you make that together with the pain, with the families, but at the same time to build with a lot of hope? You raised your head. How could you do that?
It was extremely difficult. After 9/11, the families of who lost their loved ones came to me and said, our loved one, my husband, was lost on 9/11. The intense heat was so great that his body was literally oxidized. He totally disappeared. He said, there's no remains. His remains are down there someplace, but we don't know where. When you have no remains, you can't have a burial. If you can't have a burial, you can't have closure. She said, so please understand, you can't build anywhere down there because his body is someplace in that area. So I said to her, I said, you know, I can understand your loss, but I can't fully appreciate the depths of it because it didn't happen to me, it happened to you. So I feel for you. I feel for your loss. It's a tragic loss. But you know, at the end of the day, we have to do what's good for New York because we're all New Yorkers. And somehow we have to figure out what's good for New York. And ultimately, the best thing for New Yorkers is to rebuild the Trade Center because without it, we're going to have desolation down here. She said, I can understand that, provided you don't build any place down here. So it was a huge emotional problem that went on for many, many months. End of day, the conclusion was to move forward and rebuild the Trade Center. And that's what we're in the process of doing. We've been doing it now for 23 years. Lots of problems, lots of issues. But the determination was, if we get it built, if we build the best buildings we can possibly build, we build the safest buildings that could never again be affected like the Twin Towers were built on 9/11, then things will be good again. So it took tremendous determination and courage, but the key was, it's almost done. We're almost there.
Thank you, Mr. Silverstein. And we have, I told you, you are my hero, but not only you and your wife. If you can join us, we have a word for you. Because you are the guy that didn't give up for terror, didn't give up for destruction. You rebuilt and continue building. And even today, work every single day so hard. I hope in your age I will be at least like you. But we want to thank you. So please, Mrs. Silverstein, please join us here. Can you join us? Yoni.
Wait, you want me to stand up?
Yeah. You and your wife. Wait, we have to wait for your wife. No, wait. חכה לאשתו. היא באה. Mr. Silverstein, I want to describe what you hand. We prepared the State of Israel, replica of the State of Israel. I don't know if you know, but Mr. Silverstein and the Silverstein Foundation helped so much for the State of Israel, and we want to thank them. Thank you so much.
Thank you very, very much. Yeah, for sure.
Number one, thank you for what you've just given me. I appreciate it. And my wife, my sweetheart of 68 years, she appreciates it too. People ask me, what's the most important decision I can make in my life? Particularly young people. And I tell them the most important decision they can make in their entire life is to marry the right spouse. Because the wrong one ends up in divorce and a disaster. The right one means you do everything in your lives together. There isn't anything you can't accomplish because you do it together. You talk to each other. You never argue, you discuss. You never talk about anything serious before going to bed at night, because going to bed, to love each other, to hug each other, so not talking about anything serious. The day, the morning, the afternoon, fine for serious discussion, but not at night before going to sleep, right? So the other thing is, there are two words that make a huge difference. The two words are yes, dear. For some reason, I find I'm always saying yes, dear, to her. I'm waiting for the reciprocity. I haven't found it yet, but I'm still hoping. In any event, I just want to tell you, Israel has been an extremely important part of our lives. At the request of Yitzhak Shamir, a prime minister before most of you were born, he asked me to come to Israel because the Russian Olim were coming in at a huge rate, and housing was desperately needed for them. So he came to me and he said, Mr. Silverstein, you're a builder in New York. Please help us build the housing we need in Israel. So I will tell you, at that time, Ariel Sharon was the Minister of Housing. This is after he invaded Lebanon and so forth with the armed forces, with the IDF. And with him, we arranged to build 250,000 houses in Israel. To get this done, I had to fly back and forth from New York to Israel. And we found ourselves on the verge of the first Iraqi war. And I remember going to Israel. War had been declared by the United States. And we got to the hotel, the Hilton Hotel, and the first thing they did was to give us gas masks. And they said, you have 2 minutes. When you hear an air raid alarm, the first thing you must do is gather your personal belongings, go to the safe floor, the 8th floor, and sit there and wait until the issues pass.
Okay.
So I remember going to sleep, had my personal belongings close by, and all of a sudden I hear, So I said, must be an alarm, must be an air raid. So I gather all my personal belongings, I take my gas mask with me, go to the stairwell, and I go downstairs to the 8th floor. I sit there, wait for a minute, 2 minutes, nothing happened. I pick up the telephone, and I said, is there an air raid on? She said, sir, that's an alarm, that's a car alarm. So I said to myself, okay, enough of this. Went back to my room, decided to go to sleep in hell with all the air raids. Next thing I know, I hear, and then I knew there was an air raid. So I take all my personal belongings, get in the gas mask, run to the stairway, and I see people running up the stairs. a couple going down, but everybody seemed to be going up. I said, where are you guys going? They said, we're press. We're going to the roof. So I thought about this for a minute, and I said, thank God my wife isn't here. Instead of going down to the safe, I went up to the press. I watched something that was absolutely amazing. I never saw this before in my life. To intercept the Scud missiles that were coming over Israel. The Patriot missiles were installed in the park next to the Tel Aviv Hilton. And they went up, those things.
It's just become our routine these days,
And they
right? With the missiles.
And it was the
Larry,
most extraordinary
We're
experience.
going to have to, Larry, we're going to have to end. We have dignitaries coming. Your story reminds us how missiles are not new to us, and we're experiencing this on a daily basis. Larry, thank you very much. We have to continue with our program.
God bless you.
Thank you very much.